Okay, everyone, we're back again with Dr. Arlene Taylor, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what you should know about H3O. And in our last segment, we talked some about inflammation. Inflammation, we all associate it with injury. We know when we injure ourselves, things swell up. You bruise yourself, it swells up. We know that there's inflammation associated with injury. It's a body's response. It's natural. It's part of how the body heals itself. But the average person, particularly now, the average modern person, the average Western person, suffers from chronic inflammation without even maybe necessarily being aware of it, because you don't see swelling anywhere on your body. But our diet, our hydration habits, even just our environment is all contributing to inflammation in the body. And at the base of every disease process, boy, that inflammation is a culprit. So I wanted to talk to Dr. Arlene and talk to her. What do you know about inflammation? It's damage, particularly to the brain, since that's your expertise. And then we want to talk about some ways that we can do some things to help aid our bodies in this fight against inflammation.
Well, you pointed out an excellent way to start, that inflammation is a normal part of body defenses. And it's a defense against injury or infections in general.
Right.
And that's very beneficial. If you don't have an immune system that can create inflammation to bring in the white blood cells and fight against invaders, you're sunk down the line.
Right.
But when it occurs in healthy tissues, or when it goes on too long, then it becomes totally damaging. And we know that as chronic inflammation. It can persist for months. It can persist for a lifetime.
Right.
So some of the factors you mentioned that inflammation results from are environmental chemicals.
Right.
And you never know exactly, especially prepackaged food, what you've got in there for environmental chemicals. If you get a scrape or a cut or step on a nail or get a splinter in your finger or get a bee sting, inflammation is going to come to help heal that. Pathogens or germs, as we more likely call them, like bacteria and viruses and fungi and so on, that can create inflammation.
Right.
And then we've got the current thing about radiation exposure. And so many people now are having to have radiation therapy for illnesses, especially cancer. But that's also going to create its own inflammation. So the current research is this: chronic inflammatory diseases contribute to more than half of all deaths worldwide.
Wow. Okay. I want to pause. Say that again.
All right. Chronic inflammatory diseases contribute to more than half of all deaths worldwide.
Wow.
And researchers believe that it may end up as the #1 contributor to chronic diseases.
Wow.
So research by the National Institutes of Environmental Health Services, that's a long name. I got another piece of research and made myself notes because it's new. Their research has demonstrated a link between inflammatory responses to environmental stressors and, read my lips, a reduced lifespan.
Wow.
Which supports the theory that longevity depends on a balance between pro and anti-inflammatory proteins. That's pretty amazing.
That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing. And the truth is, the more technology we have, the more civilized we become, the more we are protecting ourselves from things that are natural, and the more we surround ourselves with things that are artificial environments, artificial. So in essence, we're kind of doing it to ourselves. We spend less and less time outdoors. We spend less and less time doing things that are natural and in nature. We're surrounding ourselves. Our cleaning products are full of chemicals. Our, everything we do, we seem to be adding to our own demise, increasing our inflammation levels. And so it's important. So much of that is out of our control. There are so many things about where we work.
But we can, the things that we can do, we need to do. And the article went on to say that because hydrogen water helps to neutralize free radicals due to its antioxidant properties, any condition that has an inflammatory component may stand to benefit from H water. And so when I looked up, we know some of the chronic diseases, but I made a list of them. So chronic inflammatory diseases, autoimmune diseases,
right,
like rheumatoid arthritis, cardiovascular diseases like high blood pressure and heart disease, inflammatory, gastrointestinal disorders like inflammatory bowel disease, lung conditions like asthma, mental illnesses such as depressive disorders, as there is a growing evidence of the link between inflammation and stress-related disorders such as depression.
Wow.
Metabolic diseases like type 2 diabetes, neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's disease, and some cancers, colon cancer for one, because it's on a big increase. And I'm going, oh my goodness, we are so lucky to be in an era when not only we have this, but research is helping us understand how it helps us.
Right. Well, and we've talked before, sometimes people are resistant to get a hydrogen water machine because it's, a $3,000 investment. And yet, if you consider the cost to your body and the long-term health by not having what you need, it like you say, do the math. You're always saying do the math. I might invest $3,000 now and maybe $100 a year on filters. Versus what if I have a lifetime where I have to see a specialist because I have an autoimmune disorder? Now I have to see a specialist 4 times a year.
And you're taking expensive medicines.
Expensive medications that are going to interfere with other things. And once you get on one medicine, it seems to cascade that you're on 5 medicines or 7. I know. Because the effects of one cause an issue in somewhere else. And so I'm almost like, how can I afford not to invest in my health with hydrogen water? You once told me you would skip a vacation to have purchased a hydrogen water machine. It's that important. Yeah,
I did.
It is that important to your health.
The vacation, when I would be having to drink either bottled water that may have absorbed, something from the plastic or tap water. Oh my goodness, it was a no-brainer.
No-brainer.
I'll get there someday, and I'll live long enough to do so.
Live long enough to enjoy it while you are there. Absolutely. And you'll remember it when you get back because your brain is still healthy.
True.
So we've talked some about the anti-inflammatory properties from drinking H water. And another part of my regimen and your regimen as well is every day I take Enterprime. And one of the main reasons I take it is because that particular formula of ingredients, natural ingredients in there help to fight inflammation. So tell me how your take on Enterprime and inflammation.
Well, I've taken Enterprime before the company launched it.
Wow.
I was lucky enough to get introduced. And this is an interesting story because I was doing a community lecture on health. And this man was in the audience. And when I was done, he came up to me and he said, there's a company that's launching a new product that I'd like you to try. Well, if I've heard that once, I've heard it 5,000 times.
Right.
And my company doesn't allow me to endorse a specific product because then it's a Oh, it's impossible to say, no, you can't do this because they think their product is as good as that.
Right.
Anyway,
Right.
he said, they're going to be talking about it at a meeting later this week, and I want you to come. And I said, well, give me the information. I'll see what I can do. So on the way home, my husband said, are you going? And I said, I don't want to go. It's probably going to be just another product that's got sugar and caffeine and stuff that I don't want in it.
Right.
And he says, why don't you let me go? And I thought, oh, great. Here, go. He came back and he said, there's something to this product, Arlene. I want you to go with me to the next meeting. And that's where I met Greg. And they had not even launched that product, as far as I know, out of the company yet. And I said, all right, sign me up. I'll try it. Since that day, I don't think I've ever had a day without Enterprime, and that was in the late 1800s. And I drink it now with my hydrogen water because women especially can't eat enough, really, to get enough of the nutrients they need, the way food is grown and packaged and picked early and stuff,
Right.
without gaining weight. And I am totally committed to maintaining my optimum weight. And I think this salad of ingredients in Enterprime helps me do that.
Yeah, I would agree. I agree with you. And again, it's something because I can take it with me when I travel. I don't ever have to have a loss of nutrition when I'm traveling because I am in control. I can drink this. And sometimes when I'm traveling, I will opt and have it, more times a day, several times a day, because I want to make sure I'm getting the nutrition I need. And sometimes what I'm being offered is, it's tasty, but it's not good nutrition. So I need to take a little of that and I'll go back to my hotel room and have Enterprime.
Well, depending how much I'm lecturing on a given day, when I was in Fiji, they kept me really busy. So I had it before the morning session, I had it at noon, the afternoon session, and I had it before the evening session. And I did just fine.
Just fine. Absolutely. And again, sometimes people, push back. My adult children who are all in their early 20s and figuring out life and figuring out buying houses and all those things. And yet they all have their own subscriptions for Enterprime and Delta E, because they've been on it as teenagers through high school and college. And when they got to adulthood and didn't want to purchase it, they weren't off it very long before they knew this is not good for me. So that's an incredible evidence when 20 somethings will invest in their health.
And I hope you're telling the truth, girl, because
I'm telling the truth.
You do not look like you got kids that old.
Oh, my eldest child is 29. So,
good for you. Now, see, you're going to be aging so gracefully.
So well, and I've been on Enterprime at least 15 years that I've been on Enterprime and Delta E. So grateful that I was introduced to it and made it part of my regimen a long time ago. And there were times even when, income was an issue for us and we still kept this because, think about it, I know people in their 20s who hit Starbucks once a day.
Oh, I know.
And you can't buy a Starbucks drink less than $5 to $8 for a single Starbucks beverage.
Exactly.
So Enterprime and Delta E is way less than that. Why wouldn't you do that every day? Skip that Starbucks junk and have Enterprime and Delta E, because your body will thank you. And I love, of course, introducing it to people, older, but I'm really excited to introduce it to people in their 20s when their health habits for their lifetime are being formulated, that they can avoid some of the stuff that people are trying to clean up after. Prevention is a lot less expensive than cure.
And cure sometimes doesn't exist.
Cure sometimes doesn't exist. All you can do is maybe mitigate, but you don't cure. So, right. Yeah. So if you mind, tell me just a little bit about what is the role of hydrogen water in reducing that oxidative stress, and can it help at all protect ourselves from inflammation?
Well, oxidative stress is just linked with free radicals. And so if you get your mindset right, I mean, if you go around whining and complaining and grumpy and unthankful and don't get enough sleep and don't eat right and, and then you expect to take something and it's going to make up for all of that, get a life.
Right.
Health starts with mindset.
Right.
And with what you tell yourself. So that's going to reduce the stress. It's going to help you think more clearly about where's this stress coming from? Maybe I need to do something different in my life. I mean, self-care begins right here.
Right.
And the stress that you cannot get rid of or ameliorate, that's when I depend on Enterprime and water to help compensate for that.
Absolutely. Everything starts with a decision. And I love to encourage people, as I know you do, there is much more in your control than you think. That I had no choice. I had no choice. Whenever someone says those words to me, something rises up in me. There are things we can do. There are things we can choose. So of course, there are things out of our control and bad things can happen to us and around us. But there are many things in our control. And what is up here is always in my control. It's always my job.
There's good research out there that more than half of all the factors that affect aging are based right here on our personal choices.
Yeah.
And there's other research that says 70% of how long we live and how well we live are the choices we're making day by day. So it's huge.
Right. Yeah. I always tell people my beauty secret is joy, because I choose joy every morning, and that just radiates. If you choose it, it'll radiate. What you've got on the inside will come out the outside. So again, you're my face in the future. I think you are beautiful. Your skin is beautiful. You just radiate health and vitality and energy. And it's,
you're very kind.
Well, if I like to adopt the hat when I meet someone that I admire or that has obtained something I desire. I want to find out what they know, and I want to model what their practices are to get there. So, many of the things that you do with the way you set healthy boundaries around yourself, so you don't have things coming in that will take you out of a place where you want to be, and your habits to keep your weight in good control, and your nutrition, water, all those things that you do. I'm following in your footsteps, my dear.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll be happy for anybody who gets serious about being the best they can be, which all comes down to choices.
All comes down to choices. All right, you heard it here, folks. So we want to encourage you to make great choices. Really, you have so much ability to impact your health and wellness and life in a positive way. So again, I invite you to visit drarlenetaylor.org, visit impactsworld.com, ionthrive.com, and just make the best decisions you can make. Whatever it is you want tomorrow, it starts with the choice you make today. So we'll leave you with that. Thank you and goodbye.